anybody have any questions? Was it pretty clear what I was showing you? Yeah?
Can you further explain about the callouts again? I'm trying to understand if are the callouts just basically you doing like an orthographic sketch of like the shack, or is it specifically doing studies of like things like doors and windows?
It's specifically doing studies like doors and windows and things like that, because the shack itself is a simple object to draw. But, this is what the reason I like drawing shacks is because they're so beaten up that it's kind of forgiving. So on one level, I like that. On another level, every shack is going to have a little window in it. Every shack is going to have a door on it, and it's going to have a little balcony coming off of it. They're all going to be a very irregular, but it has a little bit of everything that you need to be able to draw in every structure, right? So, and they're not in a particular style. So you're not doing 50s modern, you're not doing Victorian. See, those kinds of buildings require that you understand the kinds of rectangles that were being used in a specific time period. So 50s modern is sort of a low, wide rectangular box. Victorians are sort of tall, narrow rectangular boxes. If you don't get those shapes right, you're never going to get the style. So that's a whole separate class. When you get into that class, though, it'd be nice if you already knew how to draw a door. It would be nice if you already knew how to draw a window, because then all that's left is to recognize the individual and specific architectural details of a given style, right? So, if you're in Paris, you're going to see Mansford roofs. You're going to see lots of different kinds of roofs. You're going to see lots of different kinds of buildings. It gets confusing because you're going to have Gothic and then Gothic Revival. Gothic Revival looks just like Gothic, but not quite. So, that would take a real sort of architectural historian. I'm not an architectural historian, but, I could pull off a good Gothic building, right? By, doing some research, finding it. What would I learn how to do? What kind of rectangles do they use? And then I'd say, how do they design their windows and doors, right? And once I get the windows and doors, and once I get the rectangle, I'm a long way towards getting Gothic to work, okay? So this is really, as I said, about getting you to understand how to use simple and complex, work using the rules of threes, use arcs, right? So use arcs to put these things together, okay? So it's really about also getting you to look at buildings a little differently. Look at them as things that are constructed. So one of the things I always tell students is, I want to see evidence of manufacture, right? How did they make it? So, people will do their wooden boxes, but I don't see any nails, right? So that's a big detail, right? I mean, it's like drawing a person without a belly button, right? I mean, it's just a little circle, but the figure is never going to look right if you don't have those details in there. So, yeah, I want to put the, I'm being reminded to put this in the chat, by the way. So let me save this for a second. We don't have to rush off, but I just want to make sure that this is saved and you get it. So it's going to be, let me see here. I'm doing, let's see. All right. I just want to make sure I get this to you because it has everything in it. Yeah, the problem with the PSD files is that I don't own the images. In some live classes, I would give out the PSD files, but the problem with an online class is we've been advised against doing that because all of the photos that are in the library, and if you go to the forum for this class, you'll find that there are photo libraries in there. One is wooden building techniques. There are a bunch of shack files in there, things like that that I put in there. You're welcome to use any of those, and all of those I photographed myself. So those are things which I can give to you and let you have. With these other things, oh, there it is. Okay, so the drawing for comp lecture is now in there. The other things you're going to have to pull off of the internet, right? So as time goes on, I'm going to be filling those files up more and more. So you'll get more from me. You're going to get a lot from me now. I mean, I've probably given them 4,000 pictures for all the classes I teach. So there's a lot in there already. Let's see. Okay. Yeah. Okay. It's in there. Yeah. When you're doing the, yeah. Okay. So yeah. So basically this is the call outs are basically, I've never drawn a shingle roof before. So before I put it on my shack where I could potentially wreck my drawing, I'm basically, practicing the shingle roof. And if you look in somebody's sketchbook, like somebody's traveling around and they're sketching in a sketchbook, you'll find that it's very common for people to draw a scene and then surrounding it is like a couple of sticks and a rock, right? And what they're doing is figuring out a detail within that scene, and they're just doing it on the side. I'm just formalizing and telling you to do it. When you work in the industry, you're going to see that a lot of these call outs are being used. So if I'm drawing, the roof, and then I do a call out, I'm actually telling the art director, the production designer, this is exactly how I want this roof to look, or how I think this roof should look, or how I think this wall should be arranged. This is exactly it, right? And then they pass it on to the crew if they agree with it, or they pass it on to the 3D modelers, or they say fine and you paint it, So, but here it's to get you to not just kind of wing it. It's to get you to kind of pull off to the side and just take a few minutes and figure out what you're going to do and then apply it inside your picture. Okay. It's a smart practice. It's a very smart practice. And in the forum, if you go in there, you're going to find that there are examples of student work covering everything that I'm giving you to do. So there's some nice shacks in there with call outs. So you'll see shacks with call outs, and you'll be in good shape. Okay.
Can I ask you a question?
Of course. Yeah.
You mentioned earlier, you said do the first barrel in marker.
And yeah, when you're working traditionally, I've found that it really loosens students up if they go in there and they do the first pass in a marker. Okay. And I would say a 10%, 10% cool gray marker on white paper. Okay. So let me switch down to my screen just for a second here and show you what I mean. Okay. So if I'm going to work on this and I want to use marker and it's going to be 10%, right? It's going to be really light. And so if it's really light, let me see if this is, yeah. So if I'm going to come in here, see, and this is really light, I can really fool around with this thing, right? I can come in here, I can put this in, I can experiment with these a little bit. See, I can have this come down here. Maybe the banding is broken. I can come in here and split things. Maybe I have a piece coming out on the side.
I can't see. I can't see.
Where you can't see?
No, I don't see you moving around. I don't see your cursor moving around. I don't see you drawing.
You don't see anything. Okay, that's a good thing to tell me. Let me come out and I'll share it again.
Okay.
Okay, here to here. Okay, do you see my cursor moving?
You're good.
Okay. So right in here, I'm basically doing a loose first sketch. Then I can come in here, put a barrel behind it, see? But one thing I can't do this light is a finished drawing. So what I like about it is it gets you guys to kind of say, okay, now I'm planning. I'm not doing my finished drawing. Then I go to my final tool and I start coming in here, see, and I start thinking about my finished drawing. I might do this in your case, because you're working traditionally, you might do this, on the same piece of paper, right? But people working digitally might go in there and just do this on a new layer. So then I start coming in and it's just going to give you a more refined drawing. See, when I'm drawing here, I'm not doing any of that. I'm just kind of whipping through and showing you how to do stuff, right? But see, I could come up here and say, there's the thickness of the barrel on the side, which I didn't think about before. Here's the thickness over here on the side. You know, I could have this barrel come in. I'm going to keep it simple there. See, I can decide I want to put something in here maybe if I want. So here's coming in. It's got a dark label, which will help to project the front forward. You see, I can come in here. So by breaking it down into 2 stages, what I'm doing is giving myself one design, which is volume and shape. And then here, this is 1. And then here, 2 is the drawing resolution.
So, sorry, so the 1 is the
planning, and that's the marker. This is
okay.
marker.
Okay.
And this is 10%. So it's a very weak marker. It's, you know, the idea, and what I've found is that students' shape language really loosens up quite a bit. Okay, so students' shapes get better because, you know, they're playing around with a marker, and very quickly you realize you can't screw your drawing up. So you just kind of relax. You just kind of relax, and then you do a better drawing on top of your marker, and that just refines the whole thing. Okay.
Okay, so that was my concern, was that, like, what if you don't like the way the marker looks, the way the shape looks
Oh,
with the marker
yeah.
doesn't.
Yeah, don't worry about it. It's completely overwhelmed by anything on top. See, if I came in here and started filling this in, you know, you're not going to see that. And also,
Right.
here's the other thing that's interesting. And a lot of students think that they don't want their drawings to look like they ever make a mistake. In other words, they don't like an underdrawing. But really, people like to see that. It makes the drawing look like a drawn object. Okay. You know, Diego knows that, right? He teaches drawing. So you know that people like seeing the underdrawing. They like seeing the gestural drawing underneath, and then they like seeing the more refined drawing on top. And that's really the drawing experience. It's a little bit of a record of seeing what the person's doing. In here, see, we're coming in, I'm just kind of building it out. Now, I'm thinking here that, see, I would do this, and I would not have my drawing behind touch the drawing in the front. See, so I'll come in here like this, and the drawing behind won't touch the drawing in the front. See, I'm going to go like this and wrap this away. So up here it can get dark, see? Over here it can get dark, but I'm going to let this drawing be dominant where they overlap. So it's going to go like this, see? And so here is 1, this is 1. Here is 2, this is 2, right over here, okay? And that's going to keep them spaced. See, if I was going to do, yeah. I'm sorry, I heard a question being asked, but now I can't hear it.
Sorry, I just hit mute by accident. So in the air gap idea that you're talking about here, this is with, you know, like line drawing and leaving an actual space. And if it's a painting, like what does that mean? You just don't add detail near the edge or soft edge?
Well, actually it works really well. It works really well. Let me get out of normal to multiply. And if we come in here, here is the shadow side of the barrel coming around to the light. Here is the shadow side of the barrel coming around to the light. You follow me?
Yeah, got it.
And then here is the shadow side of the barrel in the front. So we're going light, dark, light, dark, light, dark, and we can build that all the way through our picture. And, you know, we'll get a nice little reversal up here, see, because these little areas are facing away from the source of light. But, you know, that'll make that work really well. And here on the bottom of these rocks, see, we come in here. Rocks are a shape with a corner on it, right? So if you want to use these rocks, you put a corner on it. See, like this. And those rocks will work, you know, really well. And so just, you know, just to give you a little bit of a little rock tutorial, you basically just draw the rock. Usually you don't want to make the rock too complicated. And I put a rock in front. And so a rock is a shape that has a corner on it. See, like this. So here is a rock. It's got a shape with a corner on it. And the thing about the corner is that when I get into painting, I can paint the rock. If I don't have these corners on it, then what happens is I end up with something that's flat in an otherwise dimensional landscape, and that becomes problematic. And, you know, don't draw little rocks that look like this, right? Don't overly, you know, torment the thing. It looks, you know, looks like feces when you do that. So you want to come in here and just really sort of simplify it. And I sort of favor a long and short, kind of like this. You know, you'll find, because I like to use rocks as pointers, right? Because everything in my composition has to describe perspective, create depth, but it always has to focus towards the focal point, right? So the focal point, you know, is here. When I do this, I'm drawing the eye towards the focal point by putting these crosses in here, see? The more I put these in, the more you're going to come over into this corner over here. And if I put my guy over here, I'm basically bringing you right into him. That's what the fairy dust does in Disney pictures. The fairy dust takes you right into the little tiny focal point. Okay.
I have a good question, Will, about arcs and both things. I was watching you, and I think you use more concave curves, like arcing to the inside instead of the
Yeah.
outside. Is there a reason for that?
Well, part of it is personal taste, and part of it is is the shacks. I know that, you know, sometimes I'll see people that draw everything this way. Okay. So, you know, to me, it's a little bit too fat and round, and that's just my personal taste. See, I might come in and do something like this. I'd have to come in there and pop it out. You'll find that I tend to do a lot of this kind of stuff. I like triangles. My rocks are triangular, and, you know, part of this is, again, my personal taste. I just happen to like that. But the other thing is, it is pretty animation, by the way, to do that. You know, because it snaps up the shape and draws attention to the shape. It activates the shapes quite a bit. You know, if I was to do a fat shape, kind of like that little cushion there, you know, I'd feel like I really had to come in and do something like this to it, say, to make it more interesting. Okay. And then I would have another one facing away, kind of like this over here, see? So I'm always angling things away and towards me, see? So if this is coming towards me, I'd have something kind of angling away over here like this. I design things a bit like a bouquet, so the thing facing me is facing towards me, and then other things, as they turn away, they start facing away like this, you see? And what I'm doing is I'm getting more depth that way. I'm pushing more depth into the composition. I'm always thinking about three things at a time. One is the depth, the other is describing the object, and also directing the eye to the focal point of the picture. Okay? Did that sort of answer your question?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. So, you know, I call this the elements of style. And so,
Will, it looks Bruno is trying to say something, but
okay, Bruno, you have to turn your sound on.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's
Hello?
better.
Okay, sorry. Just in terms of like placing the objects on the ground, like obviously the boxes we drew are floating and that was a little easier, but in terms of grounding objects, how to make them look like they're actually on the ground in perspective.
Okay.
I just have trouble with that in my drawing.
Let me get in there. Okay, I'm going to go to image. 1 second. I'm going to make the canvas a little bigger. Oh, wait a second. Maybe image, canvas size. Just needed a little more room. So, okay. So ground planes are interesting in composition. And so let me come in here. There are different kinds of cutaways you can do. Like, for example, this is the bottom of a box. So I always make the bottom pretty clean, so it goes like this, okay? Then I can come in here and go, and what I'm doing is I'm actually drawing cross contour lines that are coming in like this. And these are viewed from another viewpoint, overlapping planes. So I'm coming in and I'm basically, when I reverse it, I can show you a little more. You see what I'm talking about here?
Yeah.
Okay. So another way of saying is we put it on a grid, right? But the problem with grids is they look like the floor of your bedroom, and everybody does the world as if it's the floor of the bedroom. So we're going to come in here, and then this little line on the bottom, 1 second, is going this way. So perspective-wise, if I want to put my shack in, I might come in and say the shack is here. See? However, it's sitting on this platform, see? So now this is here, and the shack is sitting on this platform. So the top here is a straight line. The bottom is going to be really bumpy because it's going according to the ground that it's on. Are you following me?
Yeah.
All right. And then we basically just come in here and we do a perspective drawing of our shack from up here, right? Okay, so
Yep.
this and this are going to the same vanishing point. So I'm using the bottom of my cutaway to basically tie into the perspective of the shack. And then if I get a better image, let's see, where am I? Okay, I'm going to go to normal. Give me a chance to clean it up for just a bit. So we're going to come in here. So this here is the ground, see, which is very irregular. But my shack, you know, is sitting on top of a flattish surface up here. When I get down here, see, the front of my shack could be hanging over this ravine down here, see. So now I'm going to come in here and this is going to come down and attach down here. You follow me?
Yeah.
So I bring this down. Is this answering your question, by the way?
Yeah. This is pretty much exactly what I was.
Yeah. So this comes in here and then the shack fits there. And then what you do is you just kind of come in here and put this ground in. So this is here. This is what I would do in marker or what I would do on a separate layer, right? And then, you know, put a barrel here. Again, I like barrels because they're easy to draw. See, you come in and stick this in here. I have another one up here. The more I overlap things, the more realistic this thing is going to feel, right? So, you know, if I have, you know, stairway coming down here like this, see, I put this in. There's the stairway going up. It's going to be irregular on the bottom, but regular on the top, okay? You're also going to get shadow patterns, you know, that might come under here like this, right? You know, things like that make it work. And then everything that factors into the shack.
Yeah.
Right. And, you know, here I can actually create the grid and just kind of go, you know, and just start creating. Then I come into the bottom, see, and then here is this side, right? It's not very good, but, you know, you see what I'm talking about in there?
Mm-hmm.
Starting to get tired. I can feel my brain kind of frying a little bit. Well, it happens. It happens, you know. After a while, I've explained stuff so much, I can feel myself begin to go. Okay, so, you know, that's going to set that up for you. Here, let me let me save that for you so you can see what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
One more small question. Sorry.
Yeah, sure.
in terms of like just the stage that maybe I'm at is like quite early. So I was wondering if when we hand in our work, if including some of the under drawings and working drawings in our design exploration would be beneficial to us for you to look at, or you,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah,
Any piece of
okay,
information you give me is information I have to work with
okay,
when I'm working with you.
cool,
I come in here and I make the windows dark. See, I'm starting to get some nice darks. See?
yeah,
Come in here. And then it's just a matter of materials. See, once I get this thing working, then it's like, okay, this is corrugated tin. You know, here's another barrel down here because he's a slob, right? See what I mean? You just start kind of
yeah,
building this thing out and you've got it. A lot of this stuff is easier than people think. You know, when I do this, you know, I've always thought that perspective was taught backwards. Okay. Personally, I think what we should do with perspective is teach drawing from boxes first. Okay. So, you know, basically this is learning how to draw from boxes. You learn how to draw the outside of the box. You learn how to draw the inside of the box. You learn that everything is boxes and cylinders. You get a good box going so people understand how to draw boxes. And then eventually you get around to 2 and 3 point perspective and 4 point perspective, that kind of thing. Because once you have the box, the other stuff is intuitive, right? You're going to really quickly understand the other stuff. But they tend to start with all the abstract stuff and you end up with the box. So everybody thinks they have to go through this whole rigmarole just to draw a box, right? So people say perspective's not my bag. I'm not interested in it. And it's just because, you know, what they're seeing is this kind of mechanical drawing technique, which we learned in high school. They didn't even call it perspective. They called it mechanical drawing. And, you know, it wasn't thought of as an art form at all. It was just something that they thought some of us might become draftsmen in a, you know, architect's office or something like that. And so, you know, but if you start with boxes and learn what you can do with it, and then somebody says, yeah, you'll get a little better at it if you kind of understand a little more about 3 point perspective or 2 point perspective, you know, you're 80% of the way there. You know, all you're doing is kind of going in there and formalizing your knowledge a little bit. So I think they do it backwards. They really throw you into the deep end of the pool with all the abstract concepts. And I think you should just start with, you know, have people draw shacks for a while. Let them learn how to scale with shacks. Let them learn how to cut holes in boxes and stack boxes and work with prisms. And then later you tell them, okay, look, in 10 minutes, I can show you how this all works with perspective. Okay. For most of our needs.